Let there be peace shared among us. Let there be peace in our eyes. And let this peace sweep the nations until we all realize that with a fresh understanding, all good will come forth in time. Let there be peace shared among us. Let there be peace.
Thank you. Well, it truly is a blessing to be here with you on this last Sunday of July. And last week we talked about love, which is one of those foundational principles that we must attune to. And another is forgiveness. And today's title is The Power of Forgiveness. Now, I think it was Peter who went to Jesus and said, "Do I have to forgive this guy 7 times?" And Jesus said, 70 times 7. And what that means to me is that forgiveness is an ongoing process. It's an ongoing thing. We need to forgive and forgive and forgive. You kind of get the idea. It's like, just keep forgiving. And so as we look at this, we might decide that maybe it's time to forgive again. Reverend Sig Paulson and Rick Dickerson wrote a wonderful book, Revelation, the Book of Unity. And in it they say, when you hold resentment towards someone or something, you are bound to that person or that condition by an emotional link that is stronger than steel. The practice of forgiveness is the only way to dissolve that link to be free. Now, why is it stronger than steel? And I know it's a metaphor, but some of our resentments we hold on to. Those perceptions that we're separate, we hold on to, I think, stronger than steel. And in that, guess how long we're going to hold on to that? Until we forgive. And then we can let go. Do we identify that those criticism, those holding something outside of us as the responsibility for our feelings? Anyone ever done that? This is an indication. If we ever feel like we're shortness of breath, if we ever feel like, it bubbles up, there's a criticism, there's a resentment, there's a hurt, there's a pain, it's our system telling us it's time to forgive. And how many times are we going to forgive? Thank you. Thank you. Forgive many times as it takes. This is a spiritual truth. And one of the things about this that's so powerful is as long as we're in unforgiveness, when we're holding on to something so tight, we don't have an awareness of God. We don't have a kindred spirit of relationship with those around us. Because we're focused on the pain. There's great power in forgiveness. From Scripture, forgiveness talked about in many places. This is Luke chapter 6, verse 37. Very understandable. Judge not, and you will not be judged. Condemn not, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Because forgiveness is an inside job. It comes down to the person who receives the greatest benefit from our forgiveness is me, myself, and I. If we're still upset about something Daddy said 50 years ago, I know that's not, just change the numbers, Jane. It still works. A while ago, and you're still holding on to it, is that hurting Dad at all? No. We're carrying around a ball and chain of pain just for the fun of it. And we can choose to release it by forgiving ourselves. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And if you say those 4 statements to yourself, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. You're on a road to healing whatever comes up to be a block. And they do come up. I think when we're ready, I think it comes up because, hey, I've got the tools, I've got the willingness to embrace whatever comes up from my past, whatever comes up from my day. Reverend William Fisher, he was a Unity minister, he's the head of the Unity School for many years, and wrote some wonderful books, a book called Alternatives. It's beautiful. You must let the human self of you so merge with the divine self that your forgiveness is as natural with you as your breathing. Isn't that beautiful? Then when we're one with God, then our forgiveness is easy. Because forgiveness always returns us to love. So we've had some criticism, we've had some pain, we have some reaction to something outside us. And when we can let go of it, what happens? What happens when we forgive? Anyone? We find peace. Anything else? A lot lighter. Yes, we get lighter. What else? Quieter in the head. Thank goodness, isn't it? Please be quiet. Just calm down. Thank you, thank you. What else? Receptive. Yes, we're open. We're available. When we're like this, how open and receptive are we? People back up. They don't want to get anywhere near me when I'm like that. Have you noticed when you're in your stuff, people just kind of, okay. Just go around them. Maybe they won't notice I'm there. But when we can establish this practice, and we can experience it as easy as breathing in and breathing out. Sounds good, doesn't it? The power of forgiveness. Myrtle Fillmore co-founder of Unity. I love Myrtle. And here she says, forgiveness is not silent consent. The negative appearance of making the best of a situation while underneath there's resentment. Anyone ever do that? Yes. Forgiveness is the act of putting something else in place of the thing forgiven. And what goes in that place is the peace, the opening, being responsive, having a clear mind, being more loving. And isn't that what we want in our lives? Isn't that the spiritual, yes, we're in the right place, we're doing a good job when we experience a little lightening up. I had an instructor. I was at University of California, Santa Cruz in the theater department. And Kate Carney, anytime she saw me in the hallway, she would grab me by the shoulders and she'd go, Gary, lighten up! And I was like, I am. I had no idea what she was talking about. And boy, was I not light. I was rigid. Everything was in control because I wanted it perfect. Was I happy? Was I free? No way. I was stuck. And it was so obvious walking down the hallway that Kate Carney was compelled every time she saw me. She grabbed me and said, Gary, lighten up! I had no idea what she was talking about. But I've learned. And I'm so glad I'm teachable. Anyone else grateful they're teachable? Oh boy, I can learn new things. And people pleasing and saying, oh, I'm fine, and I'm seething underneath. No more. No more. It's too painful. So the power of forgiveness is a spiritual truth that can lighten us up. I, for one, could lose a few pounds. I'd like to be a little lighter. So our personal exploration this week is calling upon the rich tradition of Ho'oponopono. Now, the ancient Hawaiians, this was their way of handling any issue that came up in the community. They would circle around and they would not leave the room until it was forgiven. Now, Dr. Hugh Lin, a great doctor in Hawaii, he knew about this ancient Hawaiian tradition and he decided to contemporize it, bring it into something that we could use in our daily lives. And Hugh Lin worked in a psych ward in Honolulu. And he found that people were not healing. There's a lot of pain. And so he made the practice of using this Ho'opono practice. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And he would hold the file of these people. And he'd say the name Robert. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And what happened is the psych ward began to empty out. There's powerfulness when we heal our own self. Now, this wasn't going to them and standing before them and saying, Jessica, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you, I love you. No, 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 no. This is between me and God. Because if there's unforgiveness, if I have a judgment that you're sick, the only way I can change that is by changing my perception. Because from God's point of view, not one of us is sick. And we're one with God, yes? Can God be sick? Absolutely not. So this is practicing the very same energy of God light in the world. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. So I ask you to join me this week and Dr. Joe Vitale is an author. He was in What the Bleep, and he worked with Hewlett and found out about this and wrote some books about it, Zero Limits, and to popularize this idea. I know, Steve, you've studied it and presented it with the prayer chaplains. It's a beautiful practice, and literally the word ho'oponopono means to make right righter. Not to make wrong righter, to make right righter. Because there is no wrong. There's only error thought. We can make it better. We can lighten up. We can experience peace and a clearing of our mind and more love and more openness and connection with others. It allows us to be the kind of people we want to be. Does that sound good? So the power of forgiveness is forgiving. To practice it. And a good thing to do is to not let a day go by where you don't forgive. Just, what do I need to forgive today? So that when you lay your head on your pillow, you don't carry anything into the next day. Just let it go. And that is the power of forgiveness.